right, Benji, well, welcome in. And your brother is caught up again because he stays busy this time.
Well, he's actually not busy. Well, he is busy. Don't get me wrong. His youngest daughter graduated high school, the last to leave the house.
Yeah.
Don't know if she's going to leave the house, what her college plans are, but they are suffering for Jesus down in Mickey Mouse World this week. So
well,
hey, good for them.
The man worked hard enough. He needs a break. He needs to enjoy it a little bit. So I think we could give him a little grace.
I did tell him, I was like, hey, with the heat wave coming around right now, it's probably actually in Florida. It's not as hot as it was up in North America.
Yeah, but I don't know. Remember we went to a convention there a few years ago, and then y'all we had a day where y'all took the team to Disney World, and I remember standing in line.
Brutal. It's brutal.
And I was like, y'all, this is hot.
We're going in August for Mackenzie's birthday. Oh my goodness!
I remember we kept looking for shade when we went on we went and rode Avatar, and it was like you get inside the cave and it's like, oh my gosh,
yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air.
So good. But I mean, hey, it's good. But we're excited. So we're hitting episode 49.
Yeah,
we are one away.
So close to the milestone.
I'm hitting the Big 5-0. Now, just so you guys know, Big 5-0 will kick off season 5.
Yeah.
We've got a couple things coming up. We're going to keep rolling through the summer, but we're going to try to get some of these batch recorded and things up so that way, you guys can focus on family time. There's a lot going on, but we're trying not to lose momentum. We're still going to have you guys getting an episode every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Have that out, obviously, still on social. Y'all are doing big. We're sharing those.
I will say this. With season 5, the episode 50, the kickoff, you don't want to miss because we're going to change it up a little bit. All right. And we're really excited about what we're going to be able to do. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do yet, but I think you'll get some tremendous value out of it. And again, you'll just want to stay tuned. But that episode will launch in just a few weeks. So just stay tuned for that.
Well, it was one of Brady's ideas.
It was, yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of exciting. Which, so you guys know, all the best episodes typically are Brady's. So the man has great ideas. But so we were kind of talking there like, all right, we're kind of ending up. We're wrapping season 4 before we get ready to kick off some new things with season 5. What do we want to do? And we said, you know what? The Big 5 is a big milestone
for sure
to hit the Big 5-0. I think they say less than 20%, or I'm probably just grabbing a number, so don't fact check
I think you're
me.
pretty accurate, actually.
But they say less than 20% or so of podcasts actually hit that number. Most people give up. And it's all about staying in. I mean, numbers, we saw that. I mean, we're going to get into it here in a little bit, but we talked about how our first season, numbers were okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we had people listening. And then when we started season 2, that's where I felt like we started because people would go back and listen.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
like they could binge listen.
Yep.
So we started seeing our numbers, and now we regularly push, based on our last one, I think we pushed between 150, 200 listens a week.
Yeah.
And even higher on weeks with on the new episodes out. So
for sure.
Going back, listening, and you've had people reach out to you and tell you that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is so this episode, we're going to call something like the leadership highlight, right?
Yeah.
Or excuse me, the listener's highlight reel. And there is some leadership in there because, look, we have to listen to what our listeners are telling us.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you to those that do reach out to us. You text us, you call us, you DM us on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't know what all Adam's got us on. TikTok, whatever they're on. But you guys are telling us what you like. And if we could go back for a minute to your point to the first 10 episodes, man, those things were like an hour long. And we started when we got ready to, look to finish that out. Most people don't know this, that we recorded back in 2023 was our first episode. We did the 10 episodes. And then we kind of went on a hiatus for 18 months thinking, man, this thing's not going to make any traction.
Yeah.
I went through a season of depression. Most people don't know that. And it was a very tough season for me for probably 8 months. I do want to say there was no suicidal thoughts, nothing like that. Thank the Lord. But it was just a season of reflection to think, man, are we really doing the right thing? Is our business going in the right direction? Are we, whatever. And we came back with, there was the summer of 2024. We were at our national convention, and we got back, and about a week and a half later after convention, someone reached out to us on social media, actually.
Yeah.
And they said...
It was an owner of another Serve Pro.
Yeah, out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, I think maybe they're in South Carolina, sorry. And I was like, they said, hey, could you guys tell me why you don't do these podcasts anymore? Like, I listened to them all the way back from convention on my drive back.
They binge listened to all of them.
Which, to your point, is 10 hours. Yeah. That's a lot of time.
Well, we were doing much longer episodes at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first started, we were like, I think we would do for an hour, because honestly, we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
We're just, like, literally, we're just chatting. And so, I mean, some of them were right at an hour, a little over an hour. And, so, I mean, they're long episodes. So you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that's basically, they listened to us their entire trip.
Yeah. And the lady told us on Instagram, she said, I really wish you guys would get back to doing this, because I've been inspired by just listening to the 10. And I called Adam. I'm like, hey, or actually, you might have reached out to me. I don't remember. And we were like, man, we might want to start this back up. But when we do, let's do it in 30 minutes or less segments, Yeah. And that's what you guys back in the early days were telling us, is seasons 1 and 2, we were really trying to, make sure that you guys are getting what you want. If you remember back to the first episode we had, who are these jokers and what in the world is higher up?
Well, what was funny is when we started back after that hiatus, I remember I was still full-time here working, so I was having weekly one-on-ones with Brady. And I remember we were finishing up. He's like, hey, before we're done, Dad, I want to ask you a question. Do you think I should do the podcast with y'all? And I'm like,
what in the world?
What? Like, I was like, you're pulling my leg. Where's the camera? This is not who you are. You're not going to do this. He was like, look, he said, I get a lot of people that ask me questions and ask me about leadership. And he's like, I want to help them, but I don't have, honestly, I don't have the bandwidth. I can't run the business. I can't do these things. And he was like, what if I do the podcast with y'all and we kind of change things a little bit to kind of focus on the two of us and how we do our business, so that way people that ask us all the time will be like, hey, have you listened to our podcast?
Yeah, right.
And so it was just funny, because I remember when him asking me, I was shocked.
Well, I mean, to your point, even right before that happened, we went back and we were like, man, look at all the titles of our episodes. They don't even, what are these titles called?
I have no idea what we're doing.
Faithpreneurship. Like, where did that come from?
We made that word, by the way.
I know
that
we
was
did.
a word we made up. And
I know.
remember we talked about it, and I was like, it's a good word, because nobody else has ever used it.
From burnout to balance, we had that episode, right?
Yep.
But then you're right. Brady comes on, and we start season 2 out, and we started right out of the gate with crafting a vision, right, for the year.
Still one of the most it's one of our top most listened to episodes of the podcast.
Yeah.
When he did that one, because it was like, wait, Brady's on these?
Oh yeah.
I always joked with him, because we used to do very small podcasts. Remember when you guys had the trainership?
Yep.
And we used to do them that were for the guys that we were kind of mentoring. We would give them from operations and marketing.
Oh, for sure.
We had 2 different podcasts. And I remember we did one with Brady on operations, and it was phenomenal. And I was like, why are you not doing this more often? So when he said that, I had always told him, I'm like, when we had the trainership days, you did some really good stuff.
He had some good ones.
He
had some good ones. No, but you're right. We go back to just leading with financial purpose. 10x is easier than 2x. We got a lot of reviews from that one. Data drives decisions. That was a good one. And by the way, it's weird to look back at them, back to season 2 and hear data drives decisions now going, thank goodness we were doing that back then, because today's world, there's more data out there that you can get than ever before.
It's everywhere.
And faster. Our most recent episode we launched in 48 was talking about AI and how you can use it in your business, things like that. But back then, again, we talked about core values. What does it mean? How do you understand what Team Wilson's core values are? What does that mean to you? And most leaders think clarity is an option. It's not. It's just our job, right? So we did that with strategies around the 10x is bigger than 2x, easier than 2x, excuse me, and those type things. But then you start getting into season 3. Okay. Season 3 was we started getting into quarterly rhythms. How can we help business owners and business leaders and managers get into quarterly rhythms? We were learning this at the time ourselves. And most people though ask us, like, how do y'all even come up with these episode things? It's what we're dealing with right now.
Walking through.
So it's like, how do we help other people get into quarterly rhythms? We went into weekly tactical meetings, which are, a matter of fact, I had an owner ask me, non-related to ServPro, 2 weeks ago, tell me how your structure of meetings happen at an organization of your size. Yeah. And so I just started walking through with him. You have weekly tactical, which is really your weekly management meeting. And you'd be surprised at the amount of teams that don't even do a weekly meeting.
I think I was literally just having a conversation with someone in our church office yesterday, and we were just talking about meeting stuff. And I actually was sharing. I was like, man, one of the things that I miss that we did with you at Serpro when I was doing it full time. I was like, we used to have weekly meetings, and it's more structured than it was even then.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are very, very on point with weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And I was like, what I love so much about these meetings that we're walking through it, and we talked through this in that episode. I would highly tell you to go through and listen. It's a Patrick Lencioni principle, but I was like, what I used to love, and it was stressful, but I loved is that at every meeting we had 2 minutes to share what we were working on, what we were struggling with, and what was next. And you put those 3 things that you're doing. What I loved about it, and this is what we talked about in the episode, is how it kept accountability.
Yeah, for sure.
Because now I have to share to my other executive director team, well, what's Adam doing the whole time? And I'm like, well, I got to share. And then if I was stuck on something, I could kind of, people in the room be like, well, hey, I can help you with that.
Yep.
Or if I had data or information, people are like, hey, I kind of would like to see like this information about digital marketing. Like, what's our return? Like, what are we doing with this? So my point was, that was a great point, because that allowed us, and that, like you said, we were working through that.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out what this meeting looked like. I remember at first they were like 3.5 hours.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was like,
long.
I knew my Monday was like, I'm out of pocket until lunch. Now y'all have really trimmed that down.
Yeah.
But we can share that with listeners, like, hey, this is what we work through. It's kind of like a parent, like, hey, listen, let me share you where I struggled so you don't have to struggle.
Yeah. So, and to your point, the weekly tactical, we call it, weekly management meeting, is really designed to keep you on point to your top 2 objectives. What'd you get accomplished this week? What do we need to work on to make that happen next week? Once a month, we go back to quarterly rhythms. Once a month, we have a monthly strategic. And that's where we're really trying to solve problems in the organization. It is, to your point, 4 hours, but it needs to be meaningful. It's not just to block off calendar time and just say I've got 8 to 12 or 8 to 11:30, whatever it is, blocked off. It needs to be meaningful.
I would tell you to go back and listen. That was probably, as we're just talking about a highlight reel, that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, it was.
Because I also feel like that was, you're talking about what are the bones of Team Wilson. That's probably, to me, one of the big bones, because that set up the structure for those. We had an executive team in place.
For sure.
Well, what are we supposed to do? Because we were,
so it's like 10 or 12 people looking at each other going, what are we supposed to meet about?
Well, it's not on purpose, but you were kind of like working in silos.
Yeah.
Marketing's over here.
Well, for sure.
Marketing split to, at the time, Eric Green was handling this and I'm handling that, but we're both in marketing. And then, you had operations and this. So you had all this kind of different things. You had, all these different people. So when you really put this on paper and said, all right, listeners, this is what we're doing and this is how, it took those silos and I felt like it brought it together. So I felt like that was a great episode. And I also feel like that was kind of a pivotal moment in our podcast to be like, all right, so this is the direction we want to go.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be a Greg Corshell leadership podcast.
That's exactly right. We'll never compete with that.
We're not going to compete with that. The guy, like, he owns that lane.
Yeah.
But what we were trying
Craig,
to
if you're listening to us right now, we want to thank you for listening.
You created a lane. But I think that was a pivotal moment. Again, just talking through highlights, because we were still trying to figure out what our identity was.
Yeah.
I remember when we went through the rebrand, what does higher up mean? What
That's
are we
right.
supposed to do? We're trying to find ways to help you have a higher level. Like, we don't feel like we're the experts at it. This is what worked for us. And it was nice because you had you and Brady, who were on the far end of entrepreneurship, like set stable. And then I came in and be like, well, this is kind of where I'm at. Like, I have no idea what a sole proprietor means or a pass through. Like, I just know I'm making money for taking pictures, and I need to figure out where to put it. So it kind of gave us that thing, and we figured out, all right, what if we share what we're working on and what we're dealing with? And then sometimes we'll toss in some things that we're interested in, like AI or burnout, stuff like that. But then, hey, this is really where we're at. I felt like that was a pivotal moment in that season. And that really struck a chord for where we went with season 3 and season 4.
Yeah, and you're right, because we're looking at it to be, the quarterly rhythm isn't just a planning tool, it's a recovery tool. Yeah. Think about that. If you go back and listen to that episode, I think it was episode 32 and 33 we had. So just know that every 90 days, then you get into that, we got weekly, you got monthly, then you got quarterly. Quarterly, we do an offsite. That's where we get in the rhythm of really diving down. It's an all-day thing. We do a team activity. things like that.
When you're not in the office, nobody can bother
Yeah.
you. Somebody can't walk in.
Phones off, computers
Phones
like
off,
we're dialed into the meeting.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, I'm gonna take a stab here. We're probably 2 years, maybe 2.5 years of doing quarterlies. So we're 12, 15 meetings in now.
Yeah,
of
I
the
would say 2
quarterly.
years. We did before I transitioned full time to being at the church and still working with you guys. We had our first offsite. It was big, but it was a day and a half.
Yeah.
Because remember, we did over in Hoover. We went and did a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was our first. And we at that moment we were still trying to figure out.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Well, and here's the deal. The weekly, monthly, quarterly is a discipline. You got to keep doing it, because the first time you do it, you're going to feel left behind. You're going to act like us in a room of people, go, what are we supposed to talk about? The second time you do it, you feel found. Stay with it. Don't give up hope. If you have questions, you can always reach out. Then we got into season 4. By the way, at the end of this, we're going to tell you what our most listened to episodes are and our most watched episodes on YouTube are. So
and
stay
I'm sorry,
tuned.
Roy, if you're listening, you have been dethroned.
Yeah,
So,
Roy, it was great.
I
It was
apologize.
great. I would say it's great knowing you, but it is great knowing you, buddy. Season 4, we got into knowing your audience. This was actually one that you came up with about the Cracker Barrel concept. Know your audience and our leadership stretch. So we found out in the first 3 seasons what our identity was. Then we figured out who our audience was. And our audience has gone better, even bigger than ServPro can imagine. We're in, I think I was looking up yesterday, we're in 1,600 countries across the world now.
Yeah, that's wild.
Unbelievable. We're listened to thousands and thousands and thousands of times across the world. Places that I've never even heard of in the world are finding our podcast now, watching us on YouTube. Our listener count, our watch count is way up.
Yeah.
So we figured out who our audience is, and that's because of you. If it wasn't for you, we would not have a Higher Up podcast.
Well, and knowing our audience, something that we did this year too, you and I were talking about it because we really made a stretch to be like, all right, how do we get more involved with our LinkedIn? How do we use that more? We feel like that's really a staple for our business. Yes, I think Facebook and Instagram is important, but we know the typical customer isn't following a restoration guide. No matter how good our content is.
That's correct.
Now, granted, I say that sparingly. You can be one of these crazy companies that do absolutely off the wall. Again, that's not us. That's not who we are. But we were trying to figure that out. So knowing our audience, we said, all right, what if we start sharing some of this stuff? And we're sharing this. Let's put it on our ServPro Team Wilson pages, and now our ServPro of Tuscaloosa page as well. And we were like, let's put this content that we're doing, because we want potential customers and clientele that we work with, whether that's commercial, residential, insurance agents. Let's let them see how we operate our business, so they can say, we want them to see that and be like, okay, this is a restoration company that I can get behind. This isn't just to set it and forget it. They're not coming in. They're not just dropping air movers and then we're done until it's dry. We wanted them to see what you guys were doing. So that's something you're talking about, knowing your audience. We said, let's really take what we're doing and merge the two. And we did merge the two. We merged it with our staff. We merged it with that. So we really took Higher Up and ServPro Team Wilson and made them one. So every time we post, we've collabed with that page, because we want customers to be like, oh, this is who owns this company. This is what they're doing. And then we're sharing that too as a way, and for potential people that are wanting to come and work for Team Wilson.
Absolutely.
We want them to be like, hey, this is our ownership. This is what they believe. This is how they run their company. If you want to work with us, send us a message.
Yeah. And to your point, knowing the audience, we talked about, I think it was episodes 41 through 45. We were talking about signal versus noise. I think we did a 2-part series on that. What is the signal? What's the noise? There is a lot of noise in this world.
Season 4 was a whole lot.
It was a lot.
It was. I feel like it was the season of 2-parters.
I think when we were starting to record them, we were like, this is probably going to be a 2-parter. We need to break this up. And that's okay. But we've got a lot of listeners that said, thank you for doing that, because it gave me where I could do in bite-sized pieces. Yeah. We talked about fix it now. As leaders, we want to fix things right now, but there's a way to do that without just going overboard, getting your people involved. Beyond the bottom line, we talked about, all of us think as business owners, leaders, managers, how do we become more profitable? But it's more than just that. That is a great thing. It is the best thing in business to keep you profitable, because you can reinvest back in your company, but you have people behind that. You have resources behind that. It goes beyond the bottom line. So that is probably out of season 4 the one that hit the most for me, because the idea that profit can keep a company alive slowly starts shrinking us down the leader that's running it. So it wasn't fun to record that one, I'll say.
Yeah.
But it's a true thing.
Well,
for
it's
me
like when
because
if you jump back to season 1, still to this day, my favorite ones we talked about imposter syndrome.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that was not an easy one to talk about because I even yesterday was messaging with someone.
How do I compare with someone else?
Well, so that's what, we were messing with someone yesterday and about some stuff that I was working on in the church. And I was just like, yeah, this person does a great job. They're better. And she was literally, she's like, you have the worst imposter syndrome. Like, she's like, she's like, you never give yourself credit for these at all. But I have tried to do better. I mean, even since that episode we recorded, I mean, even this past week or so, what I've been doing is going through, like, I've removed, and this will sound bad being in church creative, but I've removed every church other than maybe 10 from my social media because I'm tired of seeing stuff and being like, our church isn't, we don't do that. We need to do better. And me being over that team, I feel like I'm constantly comparing myself to everyone else. And so I went through and removed all but like 10 churches that I have personal relationships with.
Right.
And I've started going through and removing people. My goal is to get under 1,000 people that I follow. So that way my center of influence is smaller. Yeah. But to me, you were just on my episode. That was my favorite episode.
Signal versus noise.
Signal versus noise. What am I allowing in? I mean, again, what am I allowing into my circle?
Yeah.
What am I allowing in to speak to me as not only a creator, but a business owner? So if it's something, if I'm following a page, I mean, there was a lot of funny, stupid stuff that I followed just because I thought it was hilarious. I went and followed all those. Yeah. And I said, look, if it's not building me up as a dad, as a husband, as a business owner, or as a creative, I don't need to follow it. Yeah. And so I've tried to go through, and it's tough because there's some stuff in there. I'm like, man, I've been following that page since day one.
Yeah, unfollow.
Unfollow.
So then we got into, I think season 3 was our longest season we did. I don't know, Adam. It might have been like 18 or 19 episodes.
We were still kind of figuring out what we were doing, and that was, I think, that was one of Brady's first few in there, and so it was long.
That's because of the 2-parters. We'll blame it on that.
And I think one day you finally messaged Brady and they were like, "Hey guys, we got to break this up."
Yeah, we got to do it. But we moved into season 4. Okay, and season 4 really focused on the storms that come in business, the grace that we give people in our business and customers, and AI. So that's what we did with season 4. The last 3 episodes were back-to-back on purpose. So a lot of you think, do we just come up with our own content off the blue? Sometimes that works, but we do have a lot that piggyback off each other because we're like, oh, that goes good with that. That goes good with that. Yeah. 46 talked about being anchored in the storm. We talked about the Titanic, right? Was during that one. 47, we talked about grace under pressure. When you as a business leader, me as a business leader, get into pressure inside our organization, how do we show grace under that pressure with whatever we're dealing with in the moment? Because it's easy to react. We say this all the time, at least I do, control what you can control, and that's all I can control. I can't control how someone responds to me. I can control how I respond to someone else. And then we talked about 48. We talked about, obviously, AI in your business. That one is going off the charts right now because AI is where we're at. Matter of fact, before we started recording today, we were talking about some ways we can use AI with Claude even better. If you're not using Claude, you're missing out. I'm just telling you.
I think it's fantastic. The creators is the best one.
But so just know this, that we appreciate all of you listening in to the first 4 seasons. Yeah. And we're here to tell you we're not done. Okay, we're not going anywhere. Higher Up Podcast has been a great tool, great engine. But I thought it'd be good to just kind of share with you really quickly what our top podcasts are, okay? Because people are like, what is your most listened to podcast? We don't have that out there anywhere. Right now, just listening-wise, episode 15 was abundance over scarcity.
It was Brady's first topic.
It was, and it was like, man, we that one off the charts on the listening side. 2 was our episode 1, Adam, which is the most listened to still to this day.
Worst title ever.
Who are these jokers, and what is Higher Up Podcast? Justin Bissig out of Atlanta. If you're listening to this, you'll like that because I call him Joker all the time. Our episode 16, interestingly enough, was the Heart of Christmas. Yep. We had a really good discussion on that one. So that's our top 3 most listened to podcasts. And then our top 3 most watched podcast are episode 14, Be Happy on Purpose. That was a story about the Starbucks lady I found at the window. Yep. Man, it didn't matter what I said or what I did trying to get my coffee. This lady was overjoyed, energized. Yep. Go back if you want to watch that on episode 14. Obviously, episode number 2 most watched is Who Are These Jokers? Yeah. What is Higher Up?
I will say, looking at it real quick, Roy, you are still in the top 10.
He is. Number 3 was, which was just really strange, why this one was the episode 25, Core Values Part 2. Why Part 1 wasn't?
Because everybody finished up.
I guess that's true.
They tuned in more.
That's true.
You know, they came back for seconds.
Yeah.
So.
But no, we want to tell you guys all, look, stay tuned for season 5. We are very excited about episode 50. We're going to kick off. I am not going to tell you what we're doing because it will be wonderful. But look, as always, you can find us on any social platform, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, we talked about, Facebook, whatever those platforms are. You can always subscribe, higheruppodcast.com/subscribe. And we want to tell you, as always, go out and choose to live a higher up life. We'll see you at season 5.